Okay, everyone, I'm here with Gerardo Chirinos. He's been a longtime friend and participant of the blog and is always just make sure that we have really interesting conversations, not just about food, but about life and culture and politics and society. And so he's with us here today, and we are back at Pastelitos. So we're having some special Christmas dishes. Can you tell us a little bit about what those are, and are there any special traditions surrounding those, or?
So the food is just an excuse to talk about the whole experience behind it.
Absolutely.
Right. So basically as a foreigner, as somebody that immigrated to the U.S., everybody from Venezuela misses this food, what Christmas is in Venezuela, because in the U.S. Christmas is a weird celebration that is more about buying presents than actually celebrating something, right?
Right.
But Venezuela is very joyful during Christmas, and we have in Maracaibo we have gaitas, and then you talk to a maracucho like Jose Paulino, and he will tell you that that is not ours.
Pabellón?
No, Christmas play. So you talk to Paulino, and then he's gonna tell you that Christmas here is boring because we don't have gaitas, and they.
What is gaitas?
Gaitas is a weird.
Like a bagpipe, but
No,
it's
but the gaitas is a very specific type of. Let's call it Latin music, but it's not actually. It's not salsa. It's not
gaita
merengue.
is the instrument.
No, but gaita is a type of music. So guaco, it's a modern version of gaitas.
Colombian Venezuela disagree on this.
There is so the point is the point is that for us, Christmas is a weird combination of a Catholic celebration that has a lot to do with our Catholic symbols. It's all around, not New Year's, it's all around Christmas Eve. And, it's baby Jesus, not Santa.
Right.
So it is extremely meaningful, right?
Yep.
And as a European type of community, we were a Spanish colony, and then we had a lot of people from Italy, from Portugal, from all these places. Everything revolves around food. So you have Christmas dinner is a very important thing, right? So in other places you have different types of food that you eat on your celebration. Nosotros le ordenamos. In your celebrations, right? But in Venezuela, Christmas is this plate that you are going to have in every single house.
So everyone has the same meal across the country.
90% of people in Venezuela will have this for Christmas dinner. So you ask anybody, what is your Christmas food? Hallacas, pan de jamón, pernil, that is basically roasted pork, and ensalada de gallina, that is potato salad with hen and stuff. So that is very, 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 very common and standard.
So like rich or poor?
Nobody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So the story behind it is really unknown, but there are two main theories. The first one is the same one that is the source of the tamal, that it came from the Spaniards. That smells good. She's from Colombia.
So what is tamal?
So tamal is dough with some things inside, and then wrapped in.
But this is not like the Mexican
not a
tamales.
tamal.
This is a large.
But because they are similar in the sense that you use dough, put something inside, and then wrap it and boil it. Some people say that the beginning of this, the origin of this, is the Spaniard colonists. That was something that was created because people had leftovers and they put them together this way.
Okay.
And then, as any other food, you have your local ingredients, and then this became the hallaca.
Okay.
And it's very particular because not too many places have this specific type of preparation. And this is instead of being wrapped in something else, is wrapped into plantain leaves. That's one theory about the origin of this. The other theory is that the slaves during the colony were given leftovers, and that they created the hallaca as a way to maximize the use of those leftovers.
Interesting.
So I think it's neither one of the two. It's something in between.
Yeah.
But that is how these became very traditionally Venezuelan. If you think about other Venezuelan plates, like the arepa, the Colombians say that the arepa is also Colombian, and you have pupusas in Salvador. So you cannot say that this is really, really traditionally Venezuelan. But this plate is one of those few things that you will find it difficult to find it somewhere else other than Venezuela during Christmas.
Yeah. I know, I've had this last year, so it does taste quite different from any other country's tamale that I've had. It's definitely its own
It's
unique
own thing. Now, I have a personal story connected to the hallaca.
Okay.
Okay, and it has a lot to do with how my mom and my dad met each other.
Okay, so this is integral to your family history.
Very, very personal, very, very personal. So my grandma was the daughter of an Italian immigrant to Venezuela from Calabria.
Okay.
His friend was Carmelo Logaldo. So she was married to a relatively important guy on, near the capital of Venezuela, and she widowed. She became a widow. He passed. He left her and her sister a home, a house, and they made a bed and breakfast out of it. So they basically had this fonda where they were the owners, the operators, and the cooks. Right? So they had people coming in every single day. They had food and stuff. But hallacas are only made during Christmas time in Venezuela. They are not made through the year, normally. But my abuela, my grandma, made hallacas every single day for, her customers. That money was all saved to send my uncle to school.
Huh.
Okay? So when it was time, with the hallacas money, my uncle, with my grandma and my mom, moved to Austin, so my uncle attended UT. My dad had a scholarship in UT, and they went to exactly the same classroom. My grandma's house was the house where all the Venezuelans in Austin met. So that is how my mom and my dad met, fell in love, and that is how my family started. It's all about hallacas for me.
That's interesting. So that was in Austin, though.
So she did that in Los Teques, that is a little town near Caracas, but they moved to Austin for my uncle to go to college.
Right. Okay.
So my mom and my dad met in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
My dad graduated in 1959. He's a Longhorn. So the end of the story is that a couple of years ago, I took my dad to Austin for the first time since 1959.
Wow.
So we went there, and we are visiting his college. And I didn't know this, but he told me I was so poor that I was unable to buy my yearbook. 1959. So UT publishes something called Cactus, that is their yearbook. So my dad went back to Venezuela, so I tracked that book.
Did you really?
And I bought one. It's this thick. So I bought it, and I gave that to him as a present.
That's awesome.
Isn't it?
Did you find him in the book?
Oh, of course I did.
Huh.
He wanted, you know what? He wanted to, because it's such a big book, he wanted to tear the page apart. I said, no, we take a photo. Let's keep this here. Don't destroy this treasure.
Wow,
That's
amazing.
the story of my life and how it is connected to the hallacas.
Okay. Interesting. So what else? So we're going to have hallacas. What else is going to be on the plate?
So you will also find a
And I
traditional
expect
way.
equally moving stories per item on the
No,
plate.
I don't have stories for all the other items, other than they are great. So pernil is the pork leg.
Okay.
we roast it in a very particular way. It's very tender, very nice, and it's also typical in Venezuela. Pan de jamón, red ham. So there is a significant Portuguese influence in Venezuela. They own all the bakeries, and we mock them. We call them the Portugueses, and we mock them. But they make this beautiful rolled bread with ham, raisins, and olives and stuff inside. It's sweet and salty. A very typical Christmas dish as well, Venezuelan. And ensalada de gallina is basically a version of the potato salad. I don't know the origin of it or who invented it, but it's that. That is what you have for Christmas.
No. As you talk about Venezuela, I think probably most people are unfamiliar with how diverse South America is. So tell me a little bit more about, who are the major people groups that have come there over the years that kind of make up not just the country. I think even some of this relates to you and your family line.
Yeah, but basically, when you go through Latin America, and I will speak about them as proxy because basically I know Venezuela, a little bit of Colombia, and what I know meeting people here in the U.S. Most of Latin America started as Spanish colonies. So they have a common origin on Catholicism and the Spanish monarchy as a source for institutional design. Now, during the war, the World War, a lot of people from Italy, from Portugal, from Germany, and from other places, including Japan, moved to Latin America. And you can see across Latin America really clear distinctions between all the regions. So if you go to Peru, it's highly influenced by Japanese people. If you go to Argentina, it's highly influenced by Germans and Italians. And Venezuela, after that, it's highly influenced by Spaniards, specifically from Galicia, Portuguese people, Italian people, because in the 50s and 60s and before, we had a government program to invite skilled labor from Europe to build Venezuela at the time, because we discovered oil, I think, in the 40s. So we were a little nothing of a town, and in no time we became a country. And we needed people from other places. And that explains a lot of the Venezuelan history, right? So it's like that everywhere in Latin America. Now, of course, you have the Peru and Bolivia and Mexico. They have long pre-Columbian history and tradition from the Incas and the Mayans and stuff like that. We don't have that in Venezuela or Indians, where basically, in the south side of the jungle, but we don't have that big story so all of our story is very contemporary. Now, Colombia is slightly different, and from that beginning you have then the attempt to create the Gran Colombia, that is also something that gets us together for good and bad, because there are reasons why we love each other because of it, and there are reasons why we hate each other because of it. Because at the end, it's all about politics, right? And resource control.
Right. So speaking of politics and resource control, I know that with every immigrant story here to the United States, there's a lot of joy and tears that are wrapped up in this story. I'm always happy when, and I'm probably an unusual North American for this, but I'm always happy when I see people from other countries
it's
here.
It's less unusual than you think.
Oh, well,
this is a very welcoming place
that's
with
good.
Pockets of hatred.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very welcoming place.
But sometimes the pockets of hatred have the microphone.
Very vocal, yes.
That's
yes,
the problem.
Very vocal.
So I'm always excited to see new people here from other countries. I think it's one of the amazing things about a city like Houston is they bring food and culture and language and tradition with them. At the same time, I always know when I see people from other countries, there's often a reason why they're here. And so I know we have tons of Venezuelans now here in Houston, and there's a lot of political turmoil. Can you give us kind of just a short overview of what is sort of the recent events of political turmoil that's now creating a mass exodus.
A very simple way, I see 4 waves, especially Venezuela. This is not representative of any of the other countries, Venezuela only. So there is a first wave that was pre the political issues that we are living in Venezuela. Basically, people that moved to the U.S. looking for opportunities, not because they were running away from something. Then you have a second wave that I will characterize because they saw it coming. They had opportunities. They sort of went away looking for things, but they were also running away from a potential disaster that they saw coming in the future. Then you have people like me that are post the nationalization, the takeover of many industries. I didn't want to leave Venezuela. I had these opportunities, and one of my biggest clients was nationalized by the government. I knew that I was going to have trouble, so I took the opportunity. So I made the decision because I had to go away, but I was not running away. And then you have people on the most recent wave that they are actually desperately running away from the government. So you will clearly experience different things depending on which wave you belong to. So the ones that made the decision, they have an easier time adapting and adopting culture. And all the way to the ones that are running away, where they are resentful that they had to leave, and they have a lot of they remember Venezuela in a different way than I do, because they lost Venezuela.
Right.
I didn't lose Venezuela. I went away.
Right.
So for me, the integration was relatively more simple. And I lived in a U.S. town in Venezuela. My dad is a Longhorn, so I am pro-culture. So there is not a single experience that you can just put everybody on the same box.
Right.
There are multiple different experiences.
Yeah.
From somebody that left on their own to a young guy that is hopeless in Venezuela, and he moved away from Venezuela because there was no future.
Right.
And you can expect anything in between.
Yeah. I think for people who are new to immigration studies, that's one of the surprising details to know, is that the reason why people came often relates to their ability to find jobs and work and adapt, and this relates to things like preparation. You know, so for people who were coming with a long plan to come here, they've learned language early on. The people who have, been driven out, a lot of times language wasn't. I mean, they weren't planning on going anywhere, and so that's interesting where you place yourself. So, how did that actually unfold for you in the moment that it unfolded, where you made that decision?
So
to
both my wife
leave?
and I are from families that were aware and connected because of the industries our parents worked with. So they were bilingual. We are relatively highly educated. So we knew from the beginning that we had to at least speak 2 languages, and we had to be aware of the world. So we are less about only things in Venezuela are great. We believe there are good things and bad things everywhere in the world, and we can pick and choose. So that transition is easier when you speak 2 languages, when you are familiar with culture, when you are less afraid of things that are different to you.
No.
But there are what I call provincialism, people that are so entrenched on the little version of the world that anything outside this little space is full of fears and full of unknowns. And I think that is the biggest problem for the leavers and for the receivers. Because they suffer the same. They don't. When I see a person with a burqa, because I don't understand what's behind it, I'm afraid of it. But if I educate myself, and I've seen tons of people with a burqa, then that's not unfamiliar. And I know that there are nuances between different people that are wearing a burqa, and not that they are all the same and one single version of the truth.
Yeah. We often think of a meal as just a meal. Right? Let's bring this back to food. When you talk about the Christmas meal, this is more than just a meal. I mean, in Venezuela, it's more than just a meal. But especially, what is the new meaning that it takes on here?
So if we can use a simple version for me to explain, is the meaning of communion. and not from a religious point of view, but the meaning of communion from a word point of view. So communion is communication, is getting together, being in a space that you cannot run away. So I will use the biggest challenge that I have with my kids, and how food is a solution to that. So one of the biggest challenges that I have with my kids is that they are very attracted by the immediate gratification that is behind social media and devices. Mm-hmm. So because your brain is wired to be attracted by that immediate gratification, that becomes a barrier between you and me, because I'm on my phone better, easier than you and me. So food for me in my specific family, in my household, is a time with no devices. So we sit together on the table and we talk to each other. And that has become so important that my kids that are not American, but they are growing up here, they adopted Thanksgiving as a night where we dine together without strangers.
Without strangers.
Without strangers. So my kids do not want me to invite anybody during Thanksgiving, because that's their moment to voice their actual gratitude, and they don't want to do it in front of any other people. Mm-hmm. So that is a very concentrated explanation of what a meal means. It's just an excuse to get together with other people, talk to each other without anything in between. And the time that you have to spend eating is not shorter than needed. It is what it is. You cannot run away. So that comes from Italians, from Spaniards, from all these cultures that are part of our amalgamation of people.
All right, so our food is here.
So I'm just going to eat it.
So tell me what this is real fast.
So this is the famous ajaca.
Okay.
So this is an ajaca. An ajaca, as you can see, was wrapped into plantain leaves.
Okay.
It's dough, and the dough has...
Is that corn flour?
It is corn flour.
Okay.
But the yellow is onoto. I don't know what the name of that is. It's one spicy. And you can open that, and there are different versions across my country, but has pork, has peppers, olives, onions, and it has grapes, as you can see here, and other things. Raisins.
Raisins, yes.
So it is a very distinctive...
It looks like capers as well.
And capers, and it's a very distinctive flavor. Now, if you go to the west of Venezuela, they use egg. In others, the spices are different, but the preparation is the same.
Okay.
This is ensalada de gallina. As you can see, is a version of a potato salad. This is pork leg, roasted pork leg with spices, and this is ham bread. That is this preparation that has raisins, ham, onions, olives, and they are baked. It's a very specific dough. Yeah. It's very thin and crispy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dig in.
Let's dig in.